Obviously, kind of another gut punch here this last week, and there's, as a coach, you're always looking for both the good and the bad, and it happens whether you win or lose. And I'm very upbeat right now, quite honestly. Now, there's some things that obviously we got to get fixed. I think that one of the things that's unique about the game this last week against Lafayette was the conditions. It's very difficult to simulate, although we do the wet ball drills and soapy water and all those other kinds of things. I don't know that I've ever been in a game where it rained the entire time. I've been through probably harder rains, but for the game basically just to be a steady rain the whole game, it was pretty unique. And I thought, we went into the game believing and knowing that if we were going to throw the football around, it probably needed to be early. Just because the balls had not had an opportunity to go from 1 pound ball to basically a 4 or 5 pound ball, which they will do over sitting in the rain for that long a period of time. And I thought we threw the ball around pretty well. But you knew it was going to have some impact in the kicking game. We talked with our players before the game. Generally, conditions like that magnify the kicking game about tenfold. And that certainly happened to us there in the second half, where either plays that they made or our inability to make a play. We had a penalty that really hurt us in terms of field position. And, again, it magnified, I think, the second half, and I think that's probably the telltale sign was our kicking game. We came out of the game healthy, as Alex mentioned, which is, for us, has been a challenge this year, and so that was breathed a little easier coming off the field. But I really liked our sideline. I liked the energy. I thought we played extremely hard. I'm looking at some younger players right now, such as Marcus Green, as Nick and I were just talking about, that are really starting to grow up. And you knew they were going to. Sometimes it just takes some time for them to make that move. And we have got, I think, some younger players right now that I'm really, really feeling very excited about. As Alex mentioned, we have some impact players coming back, too. Rashawn Caesar is certainly an all-conference player and an impact guy, and we'll find out how many repetitions he can handle on Saturday. But he is moving around well right now. I think there's certainly a comfort level for Garrett Smith. And now you can put Jalen Hawley and Rashawn Caesar and Marcus Green out on the field at the same time. And that starts getting very exciting if you're a redshirt freshman quarterback. And I'm excited actually to see Garrett take the next step. I thought he threw the ball around very nicely in some very, very poor conditions and made some plays. It might end up being another rain fest here this next week from what I understand. Certainly we will have already dealt with it now. But I'm excited about kind of where we're at there, getting Braxton Moore back on defense, who is a playmaker for us, not just on defense, but in the kicking game is huge for us. And then getting David Elias back, who was, a guy that we were kind of counting on to get a lot of snaps going into the season. He's a guy that does have some experience at nose guard, and to get him back and get him back on the field, there was, quite honestly, on Sunday, a little bit of energy just seeing those guys walk back out on the field and starting to practice with us. And I think all of us are kind of anxious to be the team that we all felt like we could be. I think that that this has an opportunity for us to start getting back on track a little bit, because we are healthier, and even those ones that have been subbing in for our players while they've been injured are now growing up and maturing enough to where you feel confident in their abilities. Questions?
Realistically, with Caesar's return, obviously that's going to be pretty heralded, not just from you guys, but outside because of what he's been able to do this year. But, realistically, how much do you see him being able to contribute this week, and how much do you think it'll help you guys, going down this road?
That's hard to say, quite honestly, and be real honest with you. I think that he's moving around well, and so I expect he's a tough young man. I expect him to get quite a few snaps if he's prepared to take those snaps. The impact that he can have, he's certainly not 100%. The impact that he can have, I think, is certainly twofold. One is that he gives Garrett a very, very comfortable target, a guy that he knows where he's going to be. He's going to make the play. He's a guy also that we can move around. Now, the question that I don't really have the answer to is how Troy is going to respond to him. Are they going to make sure they have someone underneath and over the top against him? as some people have done to us in the past, and that basically opens up, some huge opportunities for some other individuals. So I don't really know what the answer is going to be. A lot of it's going to be to see kind of how Troy decides to respond to that.
Looking at Troy, also, this is a team. Since you've been here, this is one of the ones that you guys have had their number. I mean, you've been
Right.
able to beat them and have some success against them. Is that maybe another reason for the optimism, knowing that these guys know they can go down there and be successful because they've done it before?
No, I don't think that really factors in, quite honestly, that much. I think every year becomes a different year and a different team. Troy is very, very similar to what they've been in the past. They got their quarterback back a couple weeks ago, and quite honestly, offensively, they'd been struggling. And now that he's back, they're averaging over 40 points a game. And, it's amazing how one guy coming out of, an impact player and the difference that it can make. I think their biggest improvement has been on defense. I think Vic Canning's done a wonderful job there. Vic, by the way, is an Owasso Ram. For those of you guys that don't know, from Owasso, Oklahoma, we actually played high school football against each other. Long time ago now, actually. As Vic would probably say the same thing, but he's done a great job. And I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I've been told this by one of their media, is that they have the 5th biggest turnaround defensively of anybody in the country currently right now in terms of yards per play. And they are playing very, very aggressive on defense, and that's where you see some dramatic changes, I think, is more on the defensive side. But getting back to your question, I think that every team's different and every year's unique. This one's certainly been unique for us, and we're anxious to get back to the team that we all thought we could be, and I think that is coming. And I'm sure they're anxious to build off where they're at right now, as they played Appalachian State in a very close ball game this past week, and then had a good win, obviously, over New Mexico State on the road. I think we're getting a little bit more acclimated to traveling right now, too, and I think that kind of helps. But there's no question that Troy has been a very good program. Larry Blakeney is a dear friend. It's going to be great to see him, hopefully before and after the game. But bottom line is that we'll take this one for what it is this year's game.
Coach, listen to your post-game comments on Saturday after the heartbreaking loss, and you said the loss is on the coaches. Do you feel like you've run out of answers for this team, and do you feel differently than what you said on Saturday?
Well, it's always the coach's fault. The players are playing, and they're our responsibility. And it doesn't make any difference, who's out there. You have to find ways to make sure that they're in good positions. And if they're not making a play, then we need to find somebody that can make a play. That's still our responsibility, regardless of who's out there. And so, we're never going to shirk that responsibility. The moment that you start doing that, then you're not a coach anymore. And so, no, it's completely on me, and I'll take full responsibility for all of it. We made some mistakes. I don't. The difficult thing sometimes as a coach is whenever you know that you've covered something and it still happens. And then once again, you need to start looking at, obviously they didn't get it, otherwise they wouldn't do it. And so at that point in time, you either need to recover it and reteach it, or you need to find somebody that will do it the way that it's supposed to be done.
And do you feel like you've run out of answers for this team?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel like you've run out of answers for this team this year? No,
not at all. I know what the problem is. Problems just aren't always that easily fixed. Sometimes we've been a much younger football team. I mean, at one point in time, we're certainly not there now, but we're not too far away. But I mean, we had 16 players out. You take 16 players out of any program, I don't care where you're at, and all of a sudden you have a big-time youth movement, and young players are only going to. You know why most people don't play a lot of young players? It's because they're not ready to play. And I hate it, the fact, quite honestly, I want to play guys when they're ready to play, because then they have good experiences. Their confidence rises because they have good experience. When you're having to play guys because there's no other option, that's not a great thing. And it's certainly not one to where they're potentially going to have a great experience, and then their confidence starts, they're already curious about whether they can play or not at the age that they're at. And you'd like to be able to manage that. Sometimes you can't. And so we certainly know what some of the issues are, and now we just got to find ways to continue to try to correct them, and sometimes that means growing them up as fast as we can grow them up.
You said that you thought the program was headed in the right direction when you go in the locker room after a loss and they felt it and it hurt. Are you still seeing that?
Oh my, yeah. I mean, the guys that, yeah, I mean, we were a hurting football team afterwards. The bus ride back, you know, it's just still, it's quiet. And that's good. That's a good thing, you know, and because I've certainly been around at times, even here early on, and here in 04, 05, where, you know, we got on the bus and everybody's laughing and joking and it drove me crazy. And, you know, as long as you're getting the most out of them, that's all that we can ask out of them, other than us obviously doing a better job of coaching them up. And that's what we're going to continue to strive to do. We had a good practice, I mentioned, on Sunday, and that shows to me that they're still in it. And, you know, again, we've got things that I think this football team still wants to prove, regardless of what's happened in the past. It doesn't mean that you can't prove something in the future, and you hold on to that and you focus on it, and that's what we're doing.
Any other questions for Coach Berry?